Hey guys, welcome. My name is Oleg, and this is a video on how to set up your local dev environment for developing in WordPress. This is kind of a tour of the challenges that I faced, so hopefully by the end of this, it should be a lot easier for you guys. Okay, so let's get started. If you navigate to the WordPress developer site and read up on how to set up your dev environment, there's two options. Typically, either you can use one of these things called a local server stack, either MAMP or XAMPP, or what I prefer is a virtual machine called Varying Vagrant Vagrants, VVV for short. And this is kind of like a virtual machine uh, inside of VirtualBox um, that allows you to mimic what a real server would be like. So this is what I'm going to show you how to set up today. The first thing you need is a virtual machine, a virtual emulator, something like VirtualBox. You can also use VMware or Parallels, I believe, but I would stick to something like VirtualBox. That's what most people use. The next step, once you set that up, is installing Vagrant. I believe there's a way to do it um, through Homebrew if you have that. I'll just do it, I just did the standalone download, and there's information in their docs on how to set that up. You just have to select which um, emulator you have, and in our case it's VirtualBox, and that's about it. It's not too difficult. Um, so go ahead and download and install that. And another third optional piece of software you can get is called Vagrant Manager. It's just a little useful tool up here. It lives in your box. If you do have a lot of websites, it's useful because you can track how, if they're running, you can stop them, and it's just overall good if if you want to manage your machine's load and you don't want to be overloaded with a bunch of VMs running in the background. Um, so once you got that up and installed, what you want to do is go to GitHub. Let me go back here and find, you can just search VVV on Google or go to GitHub and search that, and you want to find the repository for VVV. And what we want to do is we want to clone that repository um, into our project folder. So I'm going to copy that, and if I open a new terminal window, I like to use iterm. Um, let's make a project folder. So let's do this. In our root directory, let's make a directory. Let's call it project. And let's cd into that project directory, cd project. And what we want to do is we're going to clone that repository in here. So we want to do git clone, and you want to paste that GitHub. And an optional thing, because it's going to name it VVV, you can give it another argument, and let's call it uh, vagrant-local, or let's call it vagrant dev. I think they use, it doesn't matter. But this is going to create a folder, and this is where all of your local WordPress sites are going to live. So that's that. So it's going to clone that over. Any internet connection. Great. Okay, so if we see that, you see a folder called Vagrant Dev. If we cd into Vagrant Dev, and okay, so we see that it created a bunch of folders here. So let's explore that a little bit. We want to go into, let's explore that folder real quick. Go into Atom. I use Atom as my text editor. We're inside of Vagrant Dev directory, and we do Atom or whatever your favorite text editor is. Dot. It's going to open everything in there. It's going to open that folder. Okay, great. So, a few config files, database files, documents. You won't have to worry about most of this stuff. The only one you really need to worry about at this moment is this www folder. this vagrant file, and this config file. These are the three things you're gonna see. So just familiarize yourself. We'll talk about it a little bit later. The www is the folder in which all your WordPress sites are going to live. So we're going to make a new site, and you're gonna find a folder for it in here. All right, so that's that. Let's move to back to our terminal window. And when we're inside the Vagrant Dev folder, there are two useful plugins that we need to install. Let's actually see where we find that. So we can find information on how to install Vagrant properly and set it up in the Vagrant Varying Vagrants Vagrants.org site. And let's go up to the documents, go to installing VVV2, and let's just check how we're doing. So Vagrant V, let's do that. Let's make sure we have Vagrant installed. So Vagrant, we can do dot dash dash version, or we can do Vagrant Vagrant dash V, and we can see Vagrant is installed. We have 1.9.6, and what we want to do is install these two plugins. So I already have them installed. Let me just make sure they're installed. So copy the first one, host updater. This is useful because host updater updates your host file in the virtual machine, and I believe in your local machine, to allow you to see the site via localhost. Okay, great. Install plugin. Great. And the second one is called Vagrant Triggers. This is useful. It runs a bunch of different scripts. Stuff like when you run Vagrant Halt, it runs a backup on your database so you don't lose all your database info. So that's useful. It's just good to have. Great. Green is good. Now, we're inside our Vagrant Dev folder. You can call it whatever you like. Um, so we want to start up that Vagrant virtual machine. And the way you do that is by a command called vagrant up, like boot up. So vagrant up, and the first boot is gonna take a while because it's doing a lot of setup stuff, some provisioning, and you're gonna see some new stuff pop up in your text editor if you have that open. So let's let this run through. You can get yourself a beer or something in the meanwhile. Our server's running. Let's let's uh, let's see what we can do. Um, let's see some stuff in action here. So remember how I told you guys that there was the things we need to worry about right now are the www folder, the vagrant file, and the config YAML file, YML. Now, this config YAML file is what kind of, I think it basically kind of routes where we see our dev environment show up. So we can go into our WordPress default website, which is WordPress default right here. This is our default WordPress. And we can see that by visiting local.wordpress.dev. So let's try to put that into our Chrome here, and look at that. Look at that. It shows up. This is the default version of WordPress, fully functional. If we go into wordpress.dev/wp-admin, it'll take us to the admin panel. The default username is going to be admin, and password is going to be password. And yeah, there you go. We are inside of the admin panel. Now, say we don't want to use that default, say we want to make our own or import our own. VVV does have documentation on how to add a site. So if you go towards the bottom of their installation, there's instructions on how to add a site. And this is all good and great. The thing is, the way I do it, I use a tool called VV. It's made by Brad P. And if you go into GitHub and just search Brad P VV or in Google search that, you'll find this uh, um, GitHub repository right here, and this has installation instructions on how to install this wizard. And I actually prefer using the wizard because it automates a lot of things. Aside from there's two configurations that I had to do in addition to this that for some reason weren't automated with this wizard. So we're going to go through that real quick right now. So if you have um, Homebrew installed, you can just run this command. There's instructions on how to install Homebrew right here. So if you don't have Brew or you don't know what it is, just go in here and follow instructions here, install Homebrew. Pretty easy, really useful actually. I've been using it a lot. So once we have Homebrew installed, we want to take this command brew install brad pvvvv, and we're still in the vagrant. I don't think if it, yeah, we don't. It doesn't matter what which directory we're in, but whoops, we gotta add a B there. Reinstall. Reinstall, and I already have it installed. I'm just doing this for the sake of doing it. Brew install. Already installed. Cool. So I already have it installed. You guys will maybe see some green. Green is always good. Um, and what this does, let's run the wizard. So we're inside our Vagrant project slash vagrant.dev. Let's run vv create. So we just run vv create and hit enter. Okay, error specified as not vv root directory. So we have to point it to our directory where vvv is installed. So we want to go tilde backslash project backslash vagrant backslash, enter that. Oh, whoops, I named it wrong. So easiest thing, just copy paste, copy pasta, copy paste. Cool. All right. Install project. New VV site setup. Okay. Name of the new site. I'm gonna call it test site. Test site. Domain to use. Let's leave that blank. We want to test it at testsite.dev. WordPress version installation. Let's just leave it default for the latest version. Install multi-site. I'm gonna hit no. I don't want multi-site. Um, Git repo to clone. We're gonna skip that for now. Local SQL file. Leave that blank for now. Remove default themes and plugins. Yes. I'll import my own. Add sample content. No. I don't need sample. Enable WP debug. Yes. And this is just kind of confirmation, just make sure that's right. Type in yes and success. And we're back. Okay, so we've got VV Wizard creating a new project for us, a new WordPress project. Let's see if it works. Ideally, it should have created a project named testsite.dev, and we should, because our Vagrant dev box is running, we should be able to visit this site. Let me copy that. Testsite.dev, run it, and it should work. It doesn't. Now, this is a problem I had to figure out before, and the trick to fixing this, and this is important, is we have to SSH into our Vagrant box. So we do Vagrant SSH, or you can just hit this button real easy and SSH. I like to use a terminal. So we're going to Vagrant SSH, and now we see the welcome message, and you see the prefix vagrant at VVV. So we're inside the Vagrant box. Now what we want to do is change directory into our site. So we do cd slash, let me see if this works, cd srv server slash www slash site slash, what's our site name? Test site. No such file. Whoops. Let's tilde for, no, not tilde. Let's do cd dot dot back up a little bit. Let's see, we have here, whoops, cd dot dot back up one more folder. we want to find where the server, oh, SRV. Okay, here we go. So we want to CD into SRV. So CD SRV slash www slash test site. That worked. I think alternatively, I forgot to put the backslash there. So I think if you do cd slash surf, that'll work. Okay, so let's list the contents. So we have this init.sh, and this is what we want to run. For some reason, that VV wizard doesn't run it, so we want to hit dot slash vvv slash init.sh, and you can just hit tab when you start writing something to autocomplete. And this actually installs WordPress. For some reason, that wizard doesn't do it. So let's let that do that. And then all we have to do is restart our Nginx, and we are in business. WordPress downloaded, config file, installed successfully. Love these success messages. Oh, what are these warnings? Hello. Okay, and now all we have to do, and you may have to do a sudo command, sudo service, because it is a service, nginx restart. And we're going to restart nginx. So the very last part to get this all working is we need to include test site in our custom YAML file. So we created a custom YAML file right here, and underneath all of this, we want to include test site, hosts, and dash space test site.dev. Make sure you type it in like this. Make sure it's underneath all this stuff here. Can't spell today. Vagrant up dash provision, and make sure there's 2 dashes here. Provision. All right, and once that's done, we can just run vagrant up. And let's see if test site.dev. Make sure that's what it's called here. Test site.dev. Oh, there we go. Okay. So now it works. Just a few extra steps, and we've got a working custom dev environment using Vagrant, Virtualbox, and the VV wizard. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, please like and subscribe for more goodness. There's definitely more to come. Thanks, and see you guys later.